I can retake.
Read, yes, bro.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yudapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam tam sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashtati Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Haribol. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Okay, so today we are going to be doing what? Let's see. So today we are going to be learning how to see God. Okay, does anyone know how we can see God? Do we have any predictions how we can see God?
From what I know, we can know about him from the revealed scriptures.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, also from what I know also is you can only learn how to see him through someone who already is seeing him. Then you can, that's the only part.
Yeah, like Srila Prabhupada said, not necessarily see him, we can hear him because
Yeah, actually,
his words are there in the book.
bro. Yeah, that's a nice point. Okay, who wants to start?
I can start actually.
Hare Krishna. Okay, Prabhu.
Okay, Bhagavad Gita. Okay, about the mind. Bandhur Atmana, sorry. Bandhur Atmatmanastasya Yana Tmaitvatmana Jitaha Anatmanastu Shatrutve Vartetatmaeva Shatruvat. For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will be the greatest enemy. Bhagavad Gita 6.6. The purpose of the yoga system is to make the mind into a friend instead of an enemy. In material contact, the mind is in a kind of drunken condition. As stated in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 20:170, Krishna bhuli shai jiva onadi bahirmukha ataiva mayatarideya samsara dukha. Forgetting Krishna, the living entity has been attracted by the Lord's external feature from the time immemorial. Therefore, the illusory energy Maya gives him all kinds of misery in his material existence. The living entity is constitutionally spirit soul, part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. As soon as the mind is contaminated, the living entity, because he has a little independence, rebels. In this state, the mind dictates, why should I serve Krishna? I am God. Thus one labors under a false impression and his life is spoiled. We try to conquer many things, even empires, but if we fail to conquer the mind, we are failures even if we manage to conquer an empire. Even though emperors, we will have within us our greatest enemy, our own mind. Jitatmanah prashantasya paramatma samahitah shitoshna sukha dukkeshu tatha manapamaneho. For one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. Bhagavad Gita 6:7. Actually, every living entity is intended to abide by the dictation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is seated in everyone's heart as Paramatma. When the mind is misled by the external illusory energy, one becomes entangled in material activities. Therefore, as soon as one's mind is controlled through one of the yoga systems, one is to be considered as having already reached the destination. One has to abide by superior dictation. When the mind is fixed on the Supreme Nature, he has no alternative but to follow the dictation of the Supreme. The mind must admit some superior dictation and follow it. When the mind is controlled, one automatically follows the dictation of the Paramatma or Super Soul. Because this transcendental position is at once achieved by one who is in Krishna consciousness, the devotee of the Lord is unaffected by the dualities of material existence, distress and happiness, cold and heat, etc. This state is called samadhi, or absorption in the Supreme. Jnana Vijnana Triptatma Kutastho Vijitendriyaha Yukta Ityuchate Yogi Samalashtrashma Kanchanaha. A person is said to be established in self-realization and is called a yogi or mystic when he is fully satisfied by virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it be pebbles, stones, or gold, as the same. Bhagavad Gita 6:8. Okay, anyone can continue next.
Hare Krishna. Book knowledge without realization of the supreme truth is useless. This is stated as follows. Atah Sri Krishna namadina bhaved grahyam indriyai sevan mukhehi jihvadau svayam eva spurat yada. No one can understand the transcendental nature of the name, form, quality, and pastimes of Sri Krishna through his materially contaminated senses. Only when one becomes spiritually saturated by transcendental service to the Lord are the transcendental name, form, quality, and pastimes of the Lord revealed to him. Padma Purana. There are men in the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. And to reclaim all these conditioned souls, there are 18 Puranas. 6 Puranas are meant for those in the mode of goodness, 6 for those in the mode of passion, and 6 for those in the mode of ignorance. The Padma Purana is written for those in the mode of goodness. Because there are many different types of men, there are many different Vedic rituals. In the Vedic literature, there are descriptions of rituals and ceremonies in which a goat may be sacrificed in the presence of the goddess Kali. This is described in the Markandeya Purana, but this Purana is meant for the instruction of those in the mode of ignorance. So if someone quotes these Puranas and tells that we should do this and it's said like this, then we can automatically know that this person is in the mode of ignorance because his most highest knowledge is coming from ignorance. It is very difficult for one to give up his attachments all at once. If one is addicted to meat eating and is suddenly told that he must not eat meat, he cannot do so. If one is attached to drinking liquor and is suddenly told that liquor is no good, he cannot accept this advice. Therefore, in the Puranas, we find certain instructions that say, in essence, all right, if you want to eat meat, just worship the goddess Kali and sacrifice a goat for her. Only then can you eat meat. You cannot eat meat just by purchasing it from the butcher shop. No, there must be sacrifice or restriction. In order to sacrifice a goat to the goddess Kali, one must make arrangements for a certain date and utilize certain paraphernalia. That type of puja or worship is allowed on the night of the dark moon. which means once a month. There are also certain mantras to be chanted when the goat is sacrificed. The goat is told, your life is being sacrificed before the goddess Kali. You will therefore be immediately promoted to the human form. Generally, in order to attain the human form, a living entity has to pass through many species of life on the evolutionary scale. But if a goat is sacrificed to the goddess Kali, he is immediately promoted to the human form. The mantra also says, you have the right to kill this man who is sacrificing you. The word mamsa indicates that in his next birth, the goat will eat the flesh of the man who is presently sacrificing him. This in itself should bring the goat eater to his senses. He should consider, why am I eating this flesh? Why am I doing this? I'll have to repay with my own flesh in another life. The whole idea is to discourage one from eating meat. Okay, let's study this meat word also, because this mamsa was the exemplary word. So here is meat. It says, me, eat, and what happens then? Eat me. Maybe this is why it's said meat. Because first me eat him, then eat me. So I will get eaten. Thus, because there are different types of men, there are 18 Puranas to guide them. The Vedic literatures are meant to redeem all men, not just a few. It is not that those who are meat eaters or drunkards are rejected. A doctor accepts all patients, and he prescribes different medicines according to the disease. It is not that he gives the same medicine for all diseases, or that he treats just one disease. No, he offers a specific type of medicine to whomever comes, and the patient receives gradual treatment. However, the Sattvic Puranas, like the Padma Purana, are meant for those in the mode of goodness, for those who immediately are capable of worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Brahma Samhita, it is stated, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha. The Supreme Controller is Krishna, who has an eternal, blissful spiritual body. Satchidananda. This is the Vedic pronouncement, and we thus accept Sri Krishna as the Supreme Lord. Thus, those who are in the modes of passion and ignorance attempt to imagine the form of God. And when they are confused, they say, oh, there is no personal God. God is impersonal or void. This is just the result of frustration. Actually, God has his form, and why not? According to the Vedanta Sutra, Janmadasyayata, the Supreme Absolute Truth is he from whom everything emanates. It is easy to see that we have different types of bodies, different types of forms. We must consider where these forms are coming from. Where have these forms originated? We have to use a little common sense. If God is not a person, how can his sons be persons? If your father is just void, if he is not a person, how can you be a person? If your father has no form, how can you have a form? This is not very difficult. It is just a common sense question. Unfortunately, because people are frustrated, they try to imagine some form. Yeah, this is really simple, in a simple way explained. And even sometimes the problem comes from when preaching to others that I'm still trying to explain things in too complicated way. But this way that Prabhupada explains it, it's always so simple. And he's saying, if you have a form, your God, your father, where is the logic? So anyone can understand from this. Or they conclude that because this material form is temporary and troublesome, God must be formless. Indeed, because all forms in this material world must perish, God of necessity must be formless. Brahma Samhita specifically states that this conception is a mistake. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha. God has form, but his form is Satchidananda Vigraha. Sat means eternal, Sit means knowledge, and Ananda means pleasure. God has form, but his form is eternal and is full of knowledge and is and pleasure. We cannot compare his form to our form. Our form is neither eternal, full of pleasure, nor full of knowledge. Therefore, God's form is different. As soon as we speak of form, we think that form must be like ours, and we therefore conclude that the eternal, all-knowing, and all-blissful God must be without form. This is not knowledge, but the result of imperfect speculation. According to Padma Purana, Atah Sri Krishna Namadina Bhavet Grahyam Indriyai. One cannot understand the form, name, quality, or paraphilia of God with one's material senses. Since our senses are imperfect, we cannot speculate on Him, who is supremely perfect. That is not possible. And then how is it possible to understand Him? Sevan mukhe jihvado. By training and purifying our senses, we can come to understand and see God. Presently, we are attempting to understand God with impure, imperfect senses. Yeah, this is the answer. That how to see God was the question in the beginning, and it is by purifying the senses. It is like someone with cataracts trying to see, just because, yeah, without the vision, if one doesn't have the spiritual vision, he cannot see. Just because one has cataracts, he should not conclude that there is nothing to be seen. Similarly, we cannot presently conceive of God's form, but once our cataracts are removed, we can see. According to Brahma Samhita, Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santah Sadeva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti. The devotees whose eyes are anointed with the ointment of love of God can see God within their hearts 24 hours a day. Yes, here comes the answer to the chapter. It was this verse from Brahma Samhita. And just imagine, the devotees whose eyes are anointed with ointment of love of God can see God within their hearts 24 hours a day. And to be a spiritual master, one must have this qualification. And in ISKCON, there is over 90 persons like this who are, that's amazing. They must be doing so nicely. Okay, who wants to continue for the next few pages? Haribol.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. You continue, please. I am not able to.
Purification of the senses is what is required. Then we can understand the name, form, and qualities and pastimes of the Lord. Then we will be able to see God everywhere and everything. These matters are discussed thoroughly in the Vedic literatures. For instance, it is said that although God has no hands or legs, He can accept whatever we offer. It is also stated that God has neither eyes nor ears. He can see and hear everything. These are apparent contradictions, but they are meant to teach us an important lesson. When we speak of sensing, when we speak of seeing, we think of material vision. Due to our material conceptions, we think that the eyes of God must be like ours. Therefore, in order to remove these material conceptions, the Vedic literatures say that God has no hands, legs, eyes, ears, etc. God has eyes, but his vision is infinite. He can see in darkness. He can see everywhere at once. Therefore, he has different eyes. Similarly, God is here and he can hear. He may be in his kingdoms millions and millions of miles away, but he can hear us whispering because he is sitting within. We cannot avoid God seeing, hearing, or Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yo Rhythm as a number with the devotional flower, fruit, or water, I will accept it. If God does not have senses, how can he accept and eat the offerings that are presented to him? According to this ritual, we offer Krishna food daily, and we can see that the taste of food is immediately changed. This is a practical example. God eats, but because he is full, he does not like he does not eat like us. If I offer you a plate of food, you will eat it and it will be finished. God is not hungry, but he eats, and at the same time, he leaves food as it is. Thus, it is transformed into prasada by his mercy. Punarasya purnam adya purnam evavishyate. God is full, yet he accepts all the food that we offer. Still, the food remains as it is. He can eat with his eyes, as stated in the Brahma Samhita. Ajnani yasya sakalendriya vrittamani. Every sense of the Lord's body has all the potencies of the other senses. Although we can see with our eyes, we cannot eat with our eyes. The senses of God, however, being infinite, are different. Simply by looking at the food that is offered to him, he eats it. This may be not understood at the present moment. Therefore, the Padma Purana states that when one becomes spiritually situated by rendering transcendental service to Lord, the transcendental name, form, qualities, and pastimes are revealed. We do not understand God by our own endeavor, but out of mercy of God reveals Himself to us. If it is night and you want to see the sun, you will have to wait for the sun to appear in the morning. You cannot go outside and with a big torch and say, "Come on, I will show you the sunlight." In the morning, when the sun rises on its own will, we can see it. Because our senses are imperfect, but we cannot see God by our own endeavor. We have to purify our senses and wait for the time when God will please to reveal Himself to us. That is the process. We cannot challenge. We cannot say, "Oh, my dear God, my dear Krishna, please come. I want to see you." No, God is not our order supplier. He is not our servant. When He is pleased, we will see Him. Therefore, the Krishna consciousness is a process by which we can please God so that He can reveal Himself to us. Because people cannot see God, they readily accept everyone who says, "I am God." Because people have no conception of God, they are eager to accept any rascal who comes along and proclaims himself to be God. People are fond of saying, "I am searching after the truth," but in order to search for the truth, we must know what truth is. Otherwise, how can we search it out? If we want to purchase gold, we must at least theoretically know what gold is. Otherwise, we will be cheated. Yes, bro. Can go next.
Otherwise, okay. Consequently, having no conception of the truth or of God, people are being cheated by so many rascals who say, I am God. In a society of rascals, one rascal accepts another rascal as God. And this is all the result of rascaldom. But all this has nothing to do with God. One has to qualify himself to see and understand God. And that process of qualification is called Krishna consciousness. सेवन मुखे ही जीवादुआ जीवा सुखदा. By engaging ourselves in God's service, we become qualified to see God. Otherwise, it is not possible. We may be great scientists or scholars, but our mundane scholarship will not help us see God. The Bhagavad Gita is the science of Krishna consciousness. In order to understand Krishna, we must be fortunate enough to associate with a person who is in pure Krishna consciousness. We cannot understand Bhagavad Gita simply by acquiring a MA, PhD, or whatever. Bhagavad Gita is a transcendental science and it requires different senses in order to be understood. Our senses must be purified by the rendering of service, not by the acquiring of academic degree. There are many PhDs, many scholars who cannot understand Krishna. Therefore, Krishna appears in the material world, although he is unborn. He comes to reveal himself to us. Thus, Krishna is realized by the grace of Krishna or by the grace of a Krishna conscious person who has realized Krishna by the grace of Krishna. We cannot understand him through academic knowledge. We can only understand Krishna by acquiring the grace of Krishna. Once we acquire his grace, we can see him, talk to him, do whatever we desire. It is not that Krishna is a void. He is a person, the supreme person, and we have a relationship with him. That is the Vedic injunction. We all are eternal person, and God is the supreme eternal person. We are all eternal, and God is the supreme eternal. Presently, because we are encaged within these bodies, we are experiencing birth and death. But actually, we are beyond death and we are beyond birth and death. We are eternal spirit souls. But according to our work and desires, we are transmigrating from one body to another. It is explained in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Okay, I will skip the this one.
Okay, Prabhupada, read it. Na jayate mriyate va kadachinnayam bhutva bhavitava na bhuya ayo nitya sasvato yam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire.
For the soul, there is never birth nor death, nor having once been. Does he ever cease to be? He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, undying and removable. He is not slain when the body is slain. Just as God is eternal, we are also eternal. And when we establish our eternal relationship with the Supreme, complete eternal, we realize our eternality. Nityo Nityayam Chetasna Chetna Chetnam Chetnayam. God is the supreme living entity among all living entities, the supreme eternal among all eternals. By Krishna consciousness, by purification of the senses, this knowledge will be realized and we will come to see God. A Krishna conscious person has realized knowledge by the grace of Krishna because he is satisfied with pure devotional service. By realized knowledge, one becomes perfect. By transcendental knowledge, one can remain steady in his conviction. But by mere academic knowledge, one can be easily deluded and confused by apparent contradictions. It is realized soul who is actually self-controlled because he is surrendered to Krishna. He is transcendental because he has nothing to do with mundane scholarship. For him, mundane scholarship and mental speculation, which may be as good as gold to others, but are of no great values than pebbles or stones. Even if one is illiterate, he can realize God simply by engaging himself in submissive, transcendental, loving service. God is not subjected to any material condition. He is supreme spirit, and this process of realizing him is also beyond material consideration. Therefore, one may be a very learned scholar and still not be able to understand God. One should not think that because he is very poor, he cannot realize God. Nor should one think that he can realize God just because he is very rich. God may be understood by an uneducated person and misunderstood by one with great education. The understanding of God, like God himself, is unconditional. In Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.6, it is stated, please Prabhu, can you kindly help me on this?
Tavai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktiradoksaje ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati.
The supreme occupation, dharma, for all humanity is that which men can attend to attend loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. Cultivation of love of God, that is the definition of first class religion. Just as there are three gunas or three qualities in the material world, there are various religions, each situated in one of the three modes. We are not, however, concerned with analyzing this religious conception. For us, the purpose of religion is to understand God, to learn how to love God. That is the real purpose. That is the real purpose of any first class religious system. If a religion does not teach love of God, it is useless. One may follow his religious principle very carefully, but if one does not possess love of God, his religion is null and void. According to Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.6, real religion must be ahituki and apratihata, without selfish motivation and without impediment. Impediment. By practicing such a religion, we will become happy in all respect. Savai punsam parodharma yato bhaktir adhuk saje. Another name for God is adhok saje, which means one who cannot be seen by materialistic attempts. That is to say that God conquers all our attempts to see materially. The word aksaje refers to experimental knowledge and adha means unreachable. So God cannot be reached through experimental knowledge. We have to learn to contact him in a different way through submissive hearing and rendering of the transcendental loving service. True religion teaches causeless love of God. It does not say, I love God because he supplies me nice object for my sense gratification. That is not love. God is great. God is our external father, and it is our duty to love him. There is no question or barter or exchange. We should not think, oh, God gives me my daily bread, therefore I love God. God gives daily bread even to the cats and dogs. Since he is the father of everyone, he is supplying everyone food. So loving God for daily bread is not love. Love is without reason. Even if God does not supply us our daily bread, we should love God. That is true love. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Asliya bha, Prabhu, can you help me on this, please?
Aslisya va padaratam pinastu mam adarshanan marmahatam karotu va. One second.
No one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embarrass or make me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. That is the sentiment of one who is established in pure love of God. When we attain that stage of love of God, we will find that everything is full of pleasure. God is full of pleasure, and we also are full of pleasure. Help Prabhu.
Suhranmitrarudashina madhyasta dvesya bandhusu sadhusvapi cha papeshu samabuddhir vishishyate.
A person who is said to be still further advanced when he regards all the honest well-wishers, friends, and enemies, the envious, the pious, the sinner, and those who are indifferent and impartial with an equal mind. This is a sign of real spiritual advancement. In this material world, we are considering people, friends, and enemies on the bodily platform. That is, on the basis of sense gratification. If one gratifies our senses, he is our friend. But if he doesn't, he is our enemy. However, once we have realized God or the absolute truth, there are no such material consideration. In this material world, all conditioned souls are under illusion. A doctor treats all patients, and although a patient may be delirious and insult the doctor does not refuse to treat him. He still administers the medicine that is required. As Lord Jesus Christ said, we should hate the sin, not the sinner. That is a very nice statement. Because the sinner is under illusion, he is mad. If we hate him, how can we deliver him? Therefore, those who are advanced devotees, who are really servants of God, do not hate anyone. When Lord Jesus Christ was being crucified, he said, "Oh my Lord, forgive them. They know not what they do." This is the proper attitude of an advanced devotee. He understands that the conditioned soul cannot be hated because they have become mad due to their materialistic way of thinking. In the Krishna consciousness movement, there is no question of hating anyone. Everyone is welcome to come and chant Hare Krishna. Take Krishna Prasada, listen to the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, and try to rectify material conditioned life. This is the essential program of Krishna consciousness. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Yare dekho tare kaho Krishna upadesh Amra Ajanya Guru Hana Tara ei Desa. Tara ei Dasa. Instruct everyone to follow the orders of Lord Sri Krishna as they are given in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. In this way, become a spiritual master and try to liberate everyone in this land. Chaitanya Madhya 7.128. Yogi Unjita Sat. Can you please?
Yogi Yunchita Satatam Atmanam Rahasistitaha Ekakiyata Chittatma Nirashir Aparigraha.
A transcendentalist should always try to concentrate his mind on the Supreme Self. He should live alone in a secluded place, and should always carefully control his mind. He should be free from desires and feeling of possessiveness. In this chapter, in which the Lord is teaching the principle of the yoga system, he here points out that a transcendentalist should always try to concentrate his mind on the Supreme Self. The Supreme Self refers to Krishna, the Supreme Lord, and as explained before, Nityam Chetnanam. God is the Supreme Eternal, the Supreme Living Entity, the Supreme Self. The purpose of the entire yoga system is to concentrate the mind on this Supreme Self. We are not the Supreme Self. That should be understood. The Supreme Self is God. This is Divyata Vada, duality. Duality means that God is different from me. He is supreme and I am subordinate. He is great and I am small. He is infinite and I am infinitesimal. This is the relationship between ourselves and the God, as we should understand it. Because we are infinitesimal, we should concentrate our mind on the infinite, Supreme Self. In order to do this, we should live alone. And living alone means that we should not live with those who are not Krishna conscious. Ideally, this means that one should live in a secluded place like a forest or a jungle. But in this age, such a secluded place is very difficult to find. Therefore, secluded place refers to that place where God consciousness is taught. The transcendentalist should also carefully control his mind. And this means fixing the mind on the Supreme Self or Krishna. As explained before, Krishna is just like the sun, and if the mind is fixed on him, there is no question of darkness. If Krishna is always on our mind, Maya or illusion can never enter. This is the process of concentration. Anyone would like to continue, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for reading.
Thank you.
Anybody? Aero Prabhu or Vishnu Prabhu, can you read? Or Sujay Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Anybody?
The transcendentalist should also be free from desires and feelings of possessiveness. People are materially diseased because they desire things and wants to possess them. We desire that which we do not have, and we lament for that which we have lost. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma, one who is actually God conscious, does not desire material possessions. He has only one desire, to serve Krishna. It is not possible to give up desire, but it is possible to purify our desires. It is the nature of the living entity to have some desire, but in the conditioned state, one's desire is contaminated. Conditioned, one thinks, I desire to satisfy my senses by material possession. Purified desire is desire for Krishna, and if we desire Krishna, desires for material possessions will automatically vanish. Shujau deshe pratishthapya stiram asanam atmana nadi उच्छ्रितं न्यादिनीचं शैलजीन कुशोत्तरं तत्रैकाग्रं मनः कृत्वा यदा चित्तेन्द्रियक्रिया उपविश्यासने युञ्ज्यात् योगम् आत्मविशुद्धये. To practice yoga, one should go to a secluded place and should lay kusha grass on the ground and then cover it with a deerskin and a soft cloth. The seat should neither be too high nor too low and should be situated in a sacred place. The yogi should then sit on it very firmly and should practice yoga by controlling the mind and the senses, purifying the heart and fixing the mind on one point. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, 11, 12. In these verses, it is emphasized how and where one should sit. In the United States and other Western countries, there are many so-called yoga societies, but they do not practice yoga according to these prescriptions. A sacred place refers to a place of pilgrimage. In India, the yogis, the transcendentalists, or devotees all leave home and reside in sacred places such as Prayaga, Madura, Vrindavana, Rishikesha, and Haridwar, and in solitude practice yoga where the sacred rivers like the Yamuna and the Ganges flow. So, how is this possible in this age? How many people are prepared to find such a sacred place? In order to earn one's livelihood, one has to live in a congested city. There is no question of finding a sacred place, but for the practice of yoga, that is the first prerequisite. Therefore, in this Bhakti Yoga system, the temple is considered the sacred place. The temple is nirguna, transcendental. According to the Vedas, a city is in the mode of passion and a forest is in the mode of goodness. The temple, however, is transcendental. If you live in a city or town, you live in a place where passion is predominant. And if you want to escape this, you may go to a forest, a place of goodness. God's temple, however, is above passion and goodness. Therefore, the temple of Krishna is the only secluded place for this age. In this age, it is not possible to retreat to a forest, nor is it useful to make a show of practicing yoga in so-called yoga societies and at the same time engage in nonsense. Therefore, in the Brihanaradiya Purana, it is said that in Kali Yuga, when people are generally short-lived, slow in spiritual realization, and always disturbed by various anxieties, the best means of spiritual realization is chanting the holy names of the Lord. Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nameva Kevalam. Kalau nasti, eva nasti, eva nasti, eva gatir anyata. In this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the only means of deliverance is chanting the holy name of the Lord. There is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way. This is the solution, the grand gift of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In this age, other yoga practices are not feasible, but this practice is so simple and universal that even a child can take to it.
Ribo.
Haribo. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for reading.
It's true.
Okay, now let's go to Sixasta Compare.
Cheto darpanamarjanam bhavamaha davagni nirvapanam shreyah kairava chandrika vitaranam vidyavatu jivanam anandam buddhivardhanam pratipadam purnamritashvadanam sarvatvasnapanam param vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam.
नाम्नामकारि बहुधा निज सर्वशक्तिस्तत्रार्पितानि यमिता स्मरणेन काला एतादृशी तव कृपा भगवन्ममापि दुर्दैवमिदृशं ह्याजानि ननुरगा.
तृणादपि सुनिश्चयेन तरोरपि सहिष्णुना अमानिना मानदेन कीर्तनीय
नदनं न जनं न सुन्दरीं कवितां वा जगदीशकामये मम जन्मनि जन्मनीश्वरे भवताद्भक्तिर्हैतुकी त्वयि.
ऐनन्दतनुजा किङ्करं पतितां मां विषमे भवां बुधौ कृपया तव पादपङ्कजा स्थितधूलिसदृशं विचिन्तय
नयनं गलादश्रुधारया वदनं गद्गदरुद्धया गिरा पुलकीर्निजितं वपुकथा तव नाम ग्रहणे भविष्यति
युगायितं निमेषेण चक्षुषा प्रवृषायितं शून्यायितं जगत्सर्वं गोविन्दविरहेण मे
आश्लिष्य वा पादरतं पिनष्टु माम् अदर्शनान् मर्महतं करोतु वा यथा तथा वा विधातु लम्पतो मत्प्राणनाथस्तु स एव नापरः Translation Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious.
O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus we have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, we have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them.
One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly.
O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth.
O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your
O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name?
O Govinda, feeling your separations, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence.
I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally.
हरि बोल श्री शिक्षाष्टकम की जाय हरिनाम संकीर्तन की
जय।
जाय पंचतत्व की
जय।
जाय नित्यानंद प्रभु की
जय।
जाय श्री कृष्ण
जय।
चैतन्य महाप्रभु की जाय जगत गुरु श्री भक्तिवेदांत
जय।
स्वामी शिला प्रभुपद की जाय निताय
जय।
गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल
वो